What's going on, everybody? Vince Goodrum here. It is Saturday evening. I'm sitting at home just chilling. Got a little bit of espresso being made. I know I haven't been up here in a couple days, but I did film a latest episode on Muscle Sport TV that should be out shortly with my good buddy Joe Piatara. So be sure to check it out, and also check out the sponsors, Titan Medical, as well as Hot Stuff Nutraceuticals or Nutritionals. It's gone by a couple of different last names, but the whole main point is just hot stuff. Just get it, okay? But in any event, the reason why I wanted to make this video, and no, it's not about Big Lenny moving out in about 2 weeks. We're already aware of that. I'll catch that probably in a day or two because, I have to give that some great thought. But, a lot of people have been asking, saying, hey, Vince Goodrum, you are a very talented person. You should take those talents to New York. And you know what? They are wrong! Wrong! Which leads me to this episode, because I keep getting asked so many times, Vince, you ought to move to New York. Vince, New York is awesome. New York is great. You would love it in New York. You would make it in New York. And all this other stuff. First off, of course I'd make it in New York. I can make it anywhere. I can make it in Japan. I can definitely make it in France. I actually took 2 years of French classes. Thank you very much. The thing about it is that there's no problem making it in New York City. The problem is I don't want to live there. So this episode is giving you an explanation as to why I would never live in New York City. And don't get me wrong, I don't have a actual problem with New York City as a whole. I got a lot of good friends from New York City. My boy Joe Beans. Most of you guys know him as Greg Valentino, Joe Piataro, I got a lot of friends in New York there. I got no problems visiting New York. But as far as living there, no. And I'm about to name off the reasons why. So let's start with the most basic things, food. Me personally, I'm from the South. I like fresh fruits and vegetables. In New York City, you simply can't get that. They don't have grocery stores. They got bodegas, but that's not a grocery store. It's a high-priced convenience store that sells apples. That's what they consider fresh vegetables. Every single variety of apples. But Lord knows if you want some grapes or some other type of fruit, oranges or anything, good luck at that. There are grocery stores in New York, but, they're like Trader Joe's and there's like maybe 6 or 7 of them. So subsequently, you'll be waiting in line for like 2 hours. And then waiting another 2 hours just to get out, which leads me to another thing. In New York City, most people do not have cars. Therefore, you're going to be hauling all those groceries that you got from Trader Joe's or from that bodega all the way back home and probably up flights of stairs. That's no fun whatsoever. In comparison to me, I can go to a number of grocery stores. My favorite is Sam's Club, but I can also go to Walmart. I can go to Publix. I can go to Ingles. I can go to Bilo. There's plenty of grocery stores. It's an abundance. And I can get fresh fruits and vegetables, all the variety of vegetables that I wish to have. Fresh meats, Angus beef, and I can go to a Trader Joe's as well, or I can go to a Whole Foods, period. So I can actually get real food, and I don't have to wait so long in line or anything like that. There's no wait just to get into any of these grocery stores. I can go in at the busiest time of the year. I'll be able to get in. And then I go to the self-checkout and I'm out. I'm in and out, just like that. With the snap of the fingers. Can't do that in New York. So in speaking about hauling your stuff back up, then let's talk about rent in New York City. A 2-bedroom apartment is like $2,000 or $3,000. It's very expensive and there's no premium on it there. I don't want to spend $2,000 or $3,000 on a 2-bedroom apartment. And I'm being very conservative there. That's in the probably a cheap portion of town, being Brooklyn. Now, me, if I was going to be in New York City, I'd probably live in Astoria, to be honest with you there. I wouldn't live in the Bronx. I would try to live a little bit outside of Manhattan, basically. Or actually commute in from New Jersey. But if I want, but in terms of living in New York City, rent comes at a very high premium. And in these apartments that are like $2,000 or $3,000, they actually have shared bathrooms and showers. Can you believe that? You're spending $2,000 to $3,000 and you still got to share a fucking shower with other residents here and bathrooms. Ew, ew, ew. In comparison to my humble abode, my Clayton East Eclipse 60, you guys can check back some of my old videos and check out my home tour. My mortgage is $561. My property is $220 as far as me paying for land. So that leaves me at around $719 basically. Property taxes are also a lot cheaper. I get a house in Long Island, for example. You're probably going to end up spending $30,000 in property taxes. Here in South Carolina, no. I think my property taxes are like $600 or $700. I mean, very reasonable. I mean, not really that much. I mean, I think it was like $600 or $700. I'm not for sure. But in terms of rent, New York is very expensive, for the cost per square foot. So, and like I said, even if I would live in Astoria, I would probably get a roommate. So yes, I can make it in New York City, by getting a roommate. It's very easy to get roommates because Lord knows everyone needs to chip in and share. And I would definitely go back to my minimalist lifestyle. But, one of the things about having roommates and everything is stuff, I have a Bowflex Max trainer. Couldn't have one there. I have paperwork. I have this office. Couldn't have that in New York City with the roommate. Have my own bedroom, living room and stuff. Couldn't have that in New York. And most importantly, I have 2 bathrooms, not one, and not a shared one. I got 2 bathrooms and 2 showers that I can actually use. One for my guest and one for myself if I wish, or I can use the showers. And plus, I have plenty of goddamn hot water. I got all the hot water I want because I have a high efficiency water pump. Plus, I don't have to worry about heating and cooling there. The power bill is so outrageous in New York City. I mean, my power bill is like $70 a month there. And believe me, I use the hell out of heat and cooling there. In New York City, if I did the exact same thing, my electric bill would be like $600 here. It's just nuts. So that's shelter. Now, in terms of cost of living, as far as jobs are concerned, that's the only advantage I would actually have in New York City. In New York City, the job that I would do, similar to the one I do here in Greenville, South Carolina, I'd probably get paid about $150,000 a year. Now, that's awesome there. But most of that money would be eaten up there by rent costs and other simplistic fees there. Yes, I would have a decent living in New York City, but at the same time, I would still be bound to the subway. And even if I decided to get a car, it would spend most of its days in the garage anyway. Lord knows you don't want to drive around New York City. You'll be stuck all day. So quite frankly, I wouldn't be able to drive around in my Caddy. Wouldn't be able to drive around in my Benz or anything like that in New York City. I would be just walking all the time or catching cabs. And that leads me to the next point, catching a cab. I guess some of you people may not have noticed, but I'm a Negro. And a black person trying to catch a taxi cab in New York City. And believe me, I had a number of taxi cabs pass me before one finally, I guess he felt sorry for me, decided to pick me up there. I guess he thought I was going to rob him there. It didn't matter what I was wearing. It's hard for a black man to catch a cab in New York City. And not only that, going around in New York City, I did get patted down by some officer or so forth there, pat downs are very prevalent for African Americans in New York City. The thing about New York City, as much as it's quoted as being a liberal shithole, they surely they give black people special treatment. I get a nice little massage every time I go down there, and not in a very good way. Thank you very much. Keep your hands to yourself, you filthy animals. So, in terms of, just quality of life is concerned, obviously I would have trouble catching a cab. So most of the time I'd be relegated to walking and getting patted down, getting a massage maybe every couple blocks. And then, of course, let's go about the subways. The subway schedules are so confusing. A lot of the subways shut down. The infrastructure is crumbling, and it's just it smells very badly down in those subways there. I mean, there's this bum everywhere. You got people getting pushed onto the rails and everything. People are acting crazy. Now, one thing I like about New York is usually when you go down through the subways, they got some street musicians that can really kick some tunes there. So I actually like that there. So I try to look at the positive things of any environment or location, but quite frankly, I don't want to catch subways. I want to drive my cars around. Okay? That too much to ask or anything like that? Really? And of course, the last thing I really need to touch on as far as New York is concerned, uh, it's just simply the smells there. I mean, there are cockroaches swarming all over the place and rats. And whenever I came there, people said it was a lot cleaner compared to, many years ago, which kind of scares me because I could only imagine just how fucking dirty that city was like 20 some years ago. But I mean, it has a long way to go, but there's only so far that, a city can be clean. Just saying. Uh, you know, to be honest with you guys, I appreciate you thinking that I actually have talent to be in New York, but like I said, the little thing that I do here in the South may go off well, but I would be a very small fish in a very large city. New York is full of entertainment. That is a lot that is light years ahead of me. The little talent that you have in a little small town won't cut you shit in New York City. So, what if I ended up actually in New York City for whatever reason? Uh, the way I would survive is, like I said, I would either commute in from New Jersey or I would live in a place called Astoria, get a couple of roommates, go to a minimalist lifestyle. I would have to just put up with walking and getting on the subways. Yeah, I could make it in New York City, but there's a difference between making it and thriving. Okay? As far as New York City's entertainment is concerned, I'm in Greenville, South Carolina. Anything that can be done in New York City, I can do here. Okay? I mean, they have theaters here, they have the opera, they have art galleries, you know, they have the Greenville Peace Center, where I can see plays and stuff like that. No different than New York City. I don't have to worry about pizza. Pizza is great around here. There's a lot of uh, people that are from New York City that, decided to get rid of the high prices there. Wouldn't you know? So I can get authentic New York pizza here in Greenville, South Carolina. They even import the water and the flour and everything like that. So I can get authentic New York pizza. But quite frankly, I prefer good old Greenville, South Carolina pizza. Hunt's pizza. I mean, pizza is just pizza, basically. You get what I'm saying? I think the pizza is a whole lot better down here in the South than in New York City. Because the difference is in South Carolina, nobody sniffs each other's asses about how great the pizza is in Greenville, South Carolina, or any other food. And, there's a lot of things that you can do down here in the South that you can't do in New York City. You can't go to Dollywood in New York City. You can't go and look at Dolly Parton's titties. I can go down to Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. I'm thinking about getting a little bit of land there. I'm just a hop, skip, and a jump away. Can't do that shit in New York City. Heck, as far as a rodeo is concerned, there ain't no rodeos in New York City. I love going to a rodeo. Period. Rodeo is really good there. I mean, as far as the circus is concerned, I mean, New York is a fucking circus. I mean, it literally is. But, I would rather go see the Ringling Brothers, not the other brothers down in New York City that are acting crazy. You get what I mean? And like I said, I'm not trying to knock New York City. I'm just, for those that are from New York City, you guys know what I'm talking about. This information is for people who are thinking about moving to New York City. Don't go to New York City unless you have a good fucking reason. If you are truly talented and a talent agent says it and they're going to support you and stuff like that, by all means, go to New York City if you have a legitimate job and reason there. Otherwise, don't go to New York City just to wonder whether you can make it or not. You'll get killed in New York City. I mean, literally. I'm not saying that you're going to get shot or anything like that, but man, if you're from a small town, you go to New York City, you'll be surprised at how much stuff costs there, you know? So that's something for you guys to think about. So, but as far as I'm concerned, I'm going to stay right here in Greenville, South Carolina. I love this place. I'm from Asheville, North Carolina. Asheville has been ruined by a bunch of, for the most part, hippies. They've literally dragged that city down into the point to where, my studio apartment in Asheville was $250. Now it's like almost $3,000. The prices in Asheville are now beginning to skyrocket to almost being New York City prices there. I kid you not. That's another reason why I moved. I mean, Greenville, a 2-bedroom apartment is still $1,000 there, but it's not New York City. And these are, you don't have to share a bathroom with anyone, and I was able to afford a nice home and property. I like freedom to move. I want to go where I need to go. I like driving cars around. I like, seeing sights. I like eating good food. I like having fresh vegetables. I like having a refrigerator. I don't want to eat out all the time there. You have to do that in New York City for the most part because the kitchens are so fucking small. They're like matchboxes. I like going to the gym. If I was in New York City, I'd probably work out in the streets here, do pull-ups on traffic lights and stuff. Now, I kid you not. I mean, like I said, I've always thought about moving to New York City, and hanging out. I got friends in New York City. I can definitely hang out until I, get things established and everything. So I don't have any problems with making it in New York City. So I'm just saying there's a huge difference between being in New York City and being here in Greenville, South Carolina. And I'm just keeping it real and telling it to you like it is here. So guys, I know this video ran a little bit long, but I just want to get my point across as far as to, simply why I wouldn't want to move to New York City. So what do you guys think? Tell me in the comments below, and remember, like and subscribe to the Vince Goodrum channel. I'm out of here. I'm going to go and make me a little espresso and watch Toonami. Peace and soul.